The Kudzukian Network presents Riffin on Jazz with your host, Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey.
Sonny Rollins.
You got to improve, man. You got Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and these boys coming up. You better get your stuff together.
Mr. Miles Davis.
White people are funny. In America, they thought that I just woke up one morning and had the blues and started playing the trumpet. But it don't go like that, and you can't explain that to them.
Miles was able to make something that was wrong into something that was right.
Now they know. I'm not an accident.
Riffin on Jazz.
Hello and welcome back to Riffin on Jazz. I'm Howard Robertson.
I'm Malvin Massey.
And of course, you know, Riffin on Jazz is your weekly visit with friends, talking about the music that we love.
It's that classic African-American art form called jazz.
Malvin.
How you doing, Dr. Robertson?
Once again, man, we get to come here and play. And today, our theme today is Chi-Town Jazz. So we're going to deal with those artists who made a name for themselves in the great city by the lake, the Windy City, Chicago. We're going to start with a lady whose name is Anita O'Day.
You'd be so nice to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire under stars chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to. I love. Under stars chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to come home to come home to. La, 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 la. Oh, yeah.
It's Chi-Town Jazz here on Riffin on Jazz.
Yeah.
And Malvin, that was Anita O'Day.
Love that voice.
Anita O'Day. Now, she was not born in Chicago. She was born in Kansas City. But she made a name for herself in Chicago with the likes of our guy, who? Louis Armstrong.
Of course.
Helped dictate and determine her career. And I wanted to say something about her. She did not want to be your typical cocktail dress, evening gown wearing female jazz singer. She wanted to stand out, so she wore jackets like the band members and a skirt, and she wanted to be a serious jazz singer. Okay, have some serious chops. She just did "You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To," so you could hear that. But it's interesting to me that she wanted to be a la Ella Fitzgerald and who was a contemporary of hers, and be a classic, soulful jazz singer.
Well, she did it.
She did it. She accomplished it.
She got her name for herself. Anita O'Day is one of those classic ladies that we think about.
Now we're talking Chicago jazz, and you had a couple of points to make relative to how Chicago became such a center for jazz, which is not known.
Yeah, it's not known for that because you think about New York, when you think about Los Angeles, Kansas City. But Chicago had a big impact on early jazz in the early 20th century because of the 6 million people in the African-American diaspora who left the South and went to Chicago.
Went up south.
So the Delta blues, the New Orleans jazz, all of those things mixed together when they got to Chicago, and it was a foundation of jazz market at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got somebody special that holds a special place. Introduce him. Bring him on in. Then we're going to talk about it.
He starts off Images of Jazz every Sunday. His name is Johnny Griffin. This one in honor of WBON, Chicago Calling.
Johnny Griffin, Chicago Calling. Now, I got to ask you this, man. Out of all of the artists that you could open your show with, why Johnny Griffin?
He was one of those cats that when I picked that CD up and started playing, the first time I started playing, I thought, you know, when you turn the radio on and you think you're listening to a jazz station, if you hear this, you know you're listening to a jazz station.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Johnny Griffin's music was like that. His style it just spoke jazz.
You like that fat, round tenor sound.
He spoke jazz to me. And that track that he did dedicated to Duke Ellington, to Count Basie. The Count, that's my thing. But that's Chicago Calling this music too. Johnny was from Chicago. Now this was Anita was, like you said, she wasn't born in Chicago. Johnny was born in Chicago. Okay. He went to DeSable High School and
DeSable.
And,
for our WVON fans that are cringing.
And while he was in high school, the age of 15, he was playing with T-Bone Walker and T-Bone's brother. Played the alto, his first instrument. Then he joined Lionel Hampton's band 3 days after he graduated from high school.
Wow.
Hamp encouraged him to take up the tenor. He, Arnett Cobb, they were in the Hamp band for a while. He first appeared in Los Angeles in the Hamptons when he was 17 in 1945 in Lionel Hampton's band. Mm-hmm. He was an innovator, and he was a cat who was well respected for his style, the way he played.
Wow. Johnny Griffin.
Yeah.
Chicago. And somebody else that we've got coming up, we're going to do a real interesting cut by War called Slipping in the Darkness. But you never heard it like this before. By the great Ramsey Lewis. Riffin on Jazz. Ramsey Lewis, our guy, Malvin.
Oh, yeah. That was one of those good ones, too. Like you said, from War, he redid it altogether.
Slipping in the darkness. Ramsey Lewis was born in Chicago, actually. And, started playing piano when he was 4 years old. Fast forward to 1966, very, very successful. He was one of the country's most successful jazz pianists, topping the charts with the In Crowd, with Hang On Sloopy, Wade in the Water. All three of those each sold well over 1 million copies.
Imagine that.
And
singles.
Went serious gold. So certainly a legend in jazz. And one of Chicago's finest, Ramsey Lewis. We want to make sure you know that you check us out you can check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn app, or your favorite podcast provider. We are Riffin on Jazz on the Kudzukian Network, and we are thrilled that you are here with us, and we want you to stay with us. Be back with us after the break. We got much more riffing to come.
Riffin on Jazz. Artivism.
Artivism features conversations with artists, creatives, and citizens working at the intersection of art and social activism. And I'm Linda Steele, your host. I'm a grant maker, change maker, social venture capitalist, and I invest in individuals and projects that use the arts as a vehicle for social change.
Artivism on the Kudzukian Network. Kudzukian! Riffin on Jazz.
Welcome back to Riffin on Jazz. I'm Malvin Massey.
I'm Howard Robertson.
And we are talking about Chi-Town jazz today.
It's a theme. That's the topic.
And so the lady coming up next, she was born in Chicago. Everybody was born in Chicago except Anita O'Day.
Oh, is that how it worked out? Okay.
That's where it ended up. She was Anna Marie Wooldridge, and her stage name was Abbey Lincoln.
Abbey Lincoln. Yeah. Abbey Lincoln.
Lost her in 2010.
Right.
And we all missed the idea of her being there. Abbey Lincoln was one of those vocalists that had her own style. She was her own person. Her music was her own, and she was an actress.
She was a Renaissance woman. She was an actress and an activist as well. She was
involved in the causes.
Involved in the
civil rights movement. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she did her own music. She did a lot of writing.
Yeah.
So it's like this, she was influenced by Billie Holiday and like that and some of those other ladies, but she did her own writing. She wanted her music to sound like her. Mm-hmm. And even though she did a lot of covers later on, but most of her original stuff was.
She always had this Afrocentricity about her. You know what I mean? She was, you could really look at her and listen to her and feel and connect with the motherland. Yeah. Had a big fro too.
Yeah. So we're gonna listen to some Abbey Lincoln.
Yes, and the cut we're gonna listen to is a cut that we are well familiar with because we have done it with various artists, other artists on this show, and it was written and composed by one Mongo Santa Maria, and it was made famous by John Coltrane and a number of people. This is the vocal version of the classic Afro Blue.
Dream of a land my soul is from. I hear a hand stroke on a drum. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro blue. Elegant boy, beautiful girl, dancing for joy, delicate whirl, shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, Afro blue. Two young lovers face to face with undulating grace,
They gently sway, then slip away to some secluded place. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, afro blue. Whispering trees echo their sighs, passionate pleas, tender replies. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, afro blue. Lovers in flight, upward they glide, burst at the height, slowly subside. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, afro blue. And my slumbering fantasy assumes reality, until it seems it's not a dream, the two are you and me. Shades of delight, cocoa hue, rich as the night, afro blue.
The great Abbey Lincoln, Chicago's finest. And that's our topic today. We're talking about Chi-Town jazz. And Abbey Lincoln, one thing I need to mention about Abbey Lincoln is she was married to another jazz icon, drummer Max Roach.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we keep talking, we get catching up with these couples. Ray Brown and Ella Fitzgerald. And,
there are a number.
Scotty and Sandy Turrentine.
Mm-hmm. Mm. A number of them got together, didn't they?
Yeah.
And as Fred Sanford used to say, coordinated.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was married to Max Roach. And I mean, they lived a very, very busy, very full life and together, part of it together. They weren't married all that long. Jazz is something about jazz and long marriages that don't agree.
Well, I mean, with the artist, I think part of it is if you got two successful people and they've got their own careers, they're both on the road all the time. They're both doing stuff they don't have time to be together. You know?
I'm gonna leave that alone.
It's one of the prices you have to pay for being a musician.
Talk about our next artist coming up.
His name is Steve Cope. And the thing about it, Steve Cole's music is always so slick. It's so cool. It's so
you can say
it's kind of crossover.
You can say smooth. Just don't say smooth.
It's kind of crossover though. I mean, as far as like he can do rough, he can do easy. Most of the CDs that he does, the covers that he does are tunes that people don't think about, like Undone.
Okay.
You've heard that one, and he does Eyes of an Angel.
Okay.
Which I use a lot of times in memorial for people who passed away. But anyway, Steve Cole, he's a really popular cat, man. He did this CD called Moonlight.
Okay.
And this is the title track.
Okay.
I want everybody to listen to see how pretty this is. All right, what do you think, Steve Cole?
I love that. I love that.
That's good music. Classic track. He was, one thing I want to mention about Steve Cole, he is a professor and advisor of music business at the University of St. Thomas.
Go, Steve. Go, Steve. And we want to tell you that if we say or play anything that you like here on Riffin on Jazz, go to our Facebook page and please like us, and make sure to check us out and talk about us to your friends. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn app, or your favorite podcast provider. We're Riffin on Jazz here on the Kudzukian Network, and we'll be back after this.
We're Riffin on Jazz.
Best in Blue.
Are you all seeing that as a tie with the gang culture in Memphis?
I don't think that we can attribute all of that to gang violence or gang initiation.
Best in Blue on the Kudzukian Network.
Riffin on Jazz.
This next gentleman we're talking about has an unforgettable voice.
My sugar is so refined.
Jazz was the happiest. Now, Callaway went to my school.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's not an alum because he didn't graduate. He has some gigs to do.
Riffin on Jazz on the Kudzukian Network. Riffin on Jazz. On Jazz. On Jazz.
Chi-Town Jazz, that's what we're talking about today on Riffin on Jazz. Howard Robertson.
On the Kudzukian Network.
Yeah, Malvin Mazza here with you. And we are transitioning in from our Chicago and into another Chicago native that everybody is familiar with, but, you know, he couldn't be left out.
No, he absolutely cannot and will not be left out. And we're talking about Herbert Jeffrey Hancock. Herbie Hancock. Born in Chicago. And just started his career with Donald Byrd and joined the Miles Davis Quintet, and the rest is quite literally history because he is such a prolific composer. He composed tunes like Cantaloupe Island, Watermelon Man, Chameleon, Rocket, I mean all the way up. It's
like an anthology of the 70s with his music. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Right. And you know, just was so seminal, has been so seminal on the jazz scene, and we are going to get into another one of his compositions, which happens to be one of my favorites.
And mine too.
One of my favorites. This is such a beautiful, haunting tune. And I never used that word to describe this song before, but it is. This song kind of borders on, it's got some kind of spirituality about it.
It was so original that it became a classic when it first came out.
We are talking about fantastic tune, Maiden Voyage, by none other than Herbie Hancock. So that's a favorite of yours too, huh?
Oh yeah. Herbie Hancock, Maiden Voyage.
Herbie Hancock took some courses at Roosevelt University there in Chicago, but he went to college. And got degrees in electrical engineering and music from Grinnell College. Now tell me without looking, tell me where that is.
I don't know.
Grinnell College is in Iowa. Okay. I know, because I almost went there.
Is that right?
Yes. I got accepted to Grinnell. It's in Iowa. It is like the Yale of Middle America.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. It is a tremendously good school. Really good school. So Herbie Hancock was very, very well educated. And like I said, has degrees in electrical engineering and music.
When you think about it, though, he never had a jazz teacher. He taught himself how to play jazz.
Taught himself how to play jazz after being trained playing classical
music. Yeah.
Right.
Never had a jazz teacher, though. So we're going to move along.
So move us along.
And we're going to talk about a cat who was, and we're going to figure out who it was who said it. He was, had one of the most soulful voices for a white guy. Yep.
Somebody said that. Some African-American black jazz singer said he was the most soulful white man she had ever heard.
Yeah. Talking about the Velvet Fog.
Right.
Mel Torme. Yeah, and he got that nickname from a DJ named Fred Robbins up in the city. Called him the Velvet Fog because of his tenor voice, and Mel hated the name. So check him out. This time he's doing Coming Home, Baby.
I'm coming home, baby, now. I'm coming home now, right away. I'm coming home, baby, now. I'm sorry now I ever went away. Every night and day I go and stay. I'm coming home, baby.
Come on home.
Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm waiting here for you.
I'm coming home now real soon.
You've been gone.
Coming home, baby, now.
You don't know what I'm going through.
I'm coming home, I know I'm overdue.
Since you went away.
Expect me any day now real soon. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm praying every night.
And everything is gonna be fine.
Please come on.
Coming home, baby, now.
I want to feel you hold me tight.
Expect to see me now anytime.
When I'm in your arms.
When you're in my arms, I'll be fine. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm counting every day.
I'm coming home now, yeah.
Use your phone.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
And baby, let me hear you say.
I'm coming home, you hearing what I say.
That you're coming home.
And I never will go away. I'm coming home. Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm waiting at the door.
They can't hold me back now, no more.
All alone.
I'm pressing on, baby, now.
And pacing up and down the floor.
Oh, hear me holler and hear me roar.
Say you'll be with me.
Gonna be with you evermore. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Oh, baby, say you're coming home.
That's what I say I'm coming home.
Something's wrong.
The road is long, baby, now.
You want to either right or wrong.
I'm coming home and never more to roam.
Baby, tell me you.
Baby, I'm for sure coming home. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Coming Home, Baby by the Velvet Fog. Mel Torme, who was also, Malvin, a very, very gifted composer, including the quintessential Christmas song, aptly entitled The Christmas Song. He wrote that. Yeah. Can you imagine the royalties amassed over all these years from that song alone?
Yeah.
That's
amazing.
Crazy.
And it kills me, though. He wrote the song, And then he realized, the voice that ought to sing that is Nat King Cole.
Nat King Cole. Right.
And he gave it to Nat before he ever recorded it himself.
And we've talked about this. That song was written on a very, very hot day, a 90-degree plus day. And they're talking about snowfall and chestnuts roasting on an open fire. But anyway, we are talking, we have had a tremendous time talking about Chi-Town jazz. Chicago-based musicians. Chicago is prolific for blues and particularly jazz due to the migration of African Americans from the South. And Chicago was the biggest up-south city that they got to, and they made music. They brought their music with them.
North from here.
Absolutely, and made music with them. So we're going to get out of here with another young man, and that is
Anthony Wonsey.
Okay.
Now, this is a new kid on the block, basically. I mean, heck, he was born in 72, so he ain't that old. But Anthony Wonsey, he's a heck of a musician. He's a pianist who was born in Chicago, of course. And he was a contemporary of cats like Roy Hargrove, Antonio Hart, and those guys. But he he went to Berkeley College.
Okay.
He studied classical first. Then he got, anyway, though, this track is from his CD. His first CD was called Anthonyology, named it after himself. Chris McBride on the bass. Just listen to this. This is a great track to go out on.
Great track to go out on, and we are going to go out. We're going to leave you here on Riffin on Jazz. Once again, we thank you for being with us. We ask that you talk about us and be with us. Again, we want to thank Dan from Down Under and Sydney, Australia, who just sent us a text. Thrilled to get
Facebook
always
post,
get those. Posts on
yeah.
Facebook, I should say. And be back with us next week here on Riffin on Jazz on the Kudzukian Network. I'm Howard Robertson.
Malvin Massey here.
Y'all take care, and we'll be back next week.
Riffin on Jazz. Executive produced by Kudzukian. Co-host by Howard Robertson and Malvin Massey Jr. Music curation by Howard and Malvin. And recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Riffin on Jazz. Part of the Kudzukian Network.